what is up, everyone? Corn O'Keefe. And yeah, it's been a while, but fortunately, I'm back today with another prediction video, another death battle prediction. We're going to be talking about Beerus a Destroyer versus Galaxia, Sailor Galaxia from Sailor Moon as a whole. And I'm joined today with some badasses. We got Infinite the Jackal King, we got the Hyperversal Kirai, we have Unity, and we have Simple Freaking Star. And I'm going to be going over Beerus, some stats, some hacks. Hyperversal Kirai is going to be going over some Sailor Moon scaling. And then everyone as a whole is going to give their freaking thoughts on who they think is going to be taking victory in this next death battle, more often than not. But before that, a word from our sponsor.
Do you need a voice actor? I'm pretty sure you do. Well, you need to come down to Hyperversal Kirai, where we do many voices. We can do Miyagi's mother. We can do Jackie Chan. We can even do Sonic the freaking Hedgehog. But yeah, why don't you come down to the Hyperversal Kirai and subscribe today. If you subscribe today, you get 50% off.
All right, so go ahead and start off with Beerus here. I'm going to go over some attack power, some scaling, some feats. So starting off, obviously, we all know the famous feat of Beerus, while heavily suppressed, clashing with Son Goku in the Battle of Gods saga in both the manga and the anime, and it was verbatim stated as they were clashing that they were going to annihilate this entire universe. I'll get to the structure in a moment, like some cosmology scaling, but annihilate the entire, quote, universe and turn it into an empty void. Now, again, this is very impressive for multiple reasons. One, Beerus himself was heavily suppressed. Now, as for the cosmology, this is actually referring to an entire macrocosm when it's referring to the universe, and this is actually shown. And these shock waves themselves, we actually visibly see them go into other separate space-times, such as the Supreme Kai realm and the afterlife. Now, this is very important because the afterlife itself is hermetically sealed off from the living world, and the Supreme Kai realm orbits outside of this entire structure, entire large globe of multiple space-time continuum. Now, the living world itself has, well, the universe, and this universe, sure, if you want to lowball it per se, say it's finite, say it's like the same size as our own universe, or maybe a little bit larger, some say, 2-3 times larger, and sure, you can lowball it and say that. However, it's also stated multiple times in an official guidebook, the Daizenshuu, that the galaxies exist infinitely, right? The galaxies exist infinitely, and the universe itself is endless. So right off the bat, that's a route I would actually go with myself, but I am going to throw it out there. Sure, there's a couple ways to look at it. However, it's not wrong to say it's infinitely large, and it's confirmed on multiple occasions in the Daizenshuu. So right off the bat, you have one universe that's either our size or a little bit larger, or it's infinitely large. And then you have the demon realm, which is essentially around the same size, a parallel realm of the universe that I just talked about. And of course, we have the hermetically sealed off afterlife, which contains the planet Heaven. The planet Heaven itself is confirmed to be about as wide as the universe within the living realm, the living world, which means it's either the size as our observable universe, a little larger, or an infinitely large planet, however you want to scale it. Now, other than that, we have Hell, which is around the same size as planet Heaven. And again, all this is in the afterlife. And we have other stuff, of course, the Grand Kai planet and the other planets that belong to the other Kais. We have the check-in station, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, we have the Supreme Kai realm, as I mentioned earlier. That's about 1/10 the size of the Universe 7 macrocosm as a whole. And again, that would either be multi-galactic or infinite in size if you go with the confirmed official statements of it being infinite, the universe, because it's 1/10 the size of infinity, which would still be infinity. So these shockwaves and the power of Lord Beerus, while heavily suppressed just by clashing fists, were actually going to annihilate this entire structure, this entire macrocosm, which is essentially, it could be classified as something known as a low multiversal structure in its own right. Now, this is very impressive because obviously this showcases he's far beyond your normal or average finite 3D universal scale. He's even going above your baseline 4D universal plus scale. If you really want to get technical, he should be around the low multiversal ranges, or some people like to call it multi-universal. So whatever you want to say, it's kind of the same thing in a way, whatever. But to add on more, we know Vados herself confirmed if Beerus and Champa fight, their battle, they would be powerful enough to actually annihilate both Universe 6 and Universe 7 macrocosm. So right off the bat, adding on more consistency. He would obviously be stronger than somebody like God of Destruction Topo, who shook the Ward of Void, which has been said to be infinitely large, or at least eternal. And eternal, it would still mean it goes on forever. So either way you look at it, it's still very impressive, adding on even more consistency. Topo did this casually. Beerus is above that. So, yeah, you can kind of get the gist. Beerus should be definitely around the multi-universal / low multiversal ranges, whatever you want to call it. Even if you slice that all in half, bare minimum universal plus again, but I would say that's definitely a low ball at this point. And he's doing all this while heavily suppressed on his part for most of these feats, very casually. So moving on to speed. Now we get to speed. There's a couple ways to look at it. There's Goku, if you go off like some stuff strictly from the original Z anime that they added in, Goku crossed the afterlife in around 10 minutes, maybe a little longer, maybe a little less. There'll be a calc down below for a couple speed calcs on that. But anyways, Goku and his base crossed it. The lowest calc I've seen would be 4.38 quadrillion, while the highest is in like the septillions of times the speed of light. And that's like right in there, in between the 7-year time skip between the Cell Games and the Buu Saga. We even go, now if you don't want to like that, it's whatever. We have Piccolo at the beginning of early Z, just waving his hand and like casually obliterating the moon in a couple seconds with his casual blast. Obviously, people like Raditz can dodge Special Beam Cannon, which is logically faster. That's all because of relativistic speeds. Characters get far, far faster from there. You have stuff like Goku cross dynamic and base. You have stuff like Beerus shockwaves crossing this entire universe that's possibly infinitely large within a finite amount of time. So, you kind of get the gist. There's definitely a lot of stuff to go off of for get them to these much faster than light speeds, if not something known as infinite speed. If you want to think, not think necessarily because it's not wrong, right? If you want to go off the fact that the Dragon Ball universe is stated to be infinitely large, then there you go. You can argue infinite speed, especially the one Goku crossing the afterlife in 10 minutes. That could be seen as a speed feat if you want to argue it. And obviously, what I just mentioned, there are shockwaves and flashes crossing the infinitely large universe. So just throwing it out there, a couple ways to look at it. It's not necessarily wrong either way. I'd go with the more infinite route myself, but, that's another day. So yeah, in terms of hacks, we have the famous Hakai, which obviously is verbatim said to erase you, destroy your existence. You won't even go to the afterlife. So it's not even like normal, I'm not just like killing you and you're going to die. No, it's erasing your mind, body, and spirit. And we know for a fact Ki also does, just in general, affect you on a spiritual, mental, and physical level, a multi-layered level. And then Hakai is shown to even like destroy, obviously, Ghost, which backs all this up as well. And like Sigdra's statement again of it destroying their existence. So we have that, the Hakai. We have like sealing, although you can argue it's questionable, but We do know for a fact he did steal the Elder Kai. It's just kind of unknown as to how he did it. Nonetheless, something that you can consider. He has his own little form of Ultra Instinct, not mastered, but kind of like his own Omen. If you go off the manga, he's shown it directly when he finessed other gods of destruction. So there's that. He's a master of pressure points, millions of years of experience, knowledge of master martial artists, trained by Whis. Resistance to, you can even argue like stuff like Toon Force in a way, or gag stuff somewhat, like it was stated, Goku was like, yeah, that stuff won't, to Aurelia, that won't really work on Beerus. And it's kind of shown when her stuff, she walked up to him and his proximity, she really didn't do nothing to him. It kind of knocked her back. So you could argue he has low resistance to like low grade gag stuff or whatever. Should have resistance to mind control to an extent, as he has more ki than Majin Vegeta. And as we know, it's ki itself is mental based, right-mindedness, this and that and the other, you know. Should have, you can argue, transmutation resistance, scales above the ki. You can argue this, right? You can argue he scales above, like, obviously, Vegito from the Buu Saga, who could fight as a piece of ki. So there's stuff like that you could consider, you know. Other than that, Beerus overall is an absolute monster. Sure, in character, he's a little lazy, right? He doesn't do a lot per se, but what we have seen him do is very impressive. And sure, we haven't seen his full power, but again, what we have seen him do is what we can go off of consistently. And consistently, he's obviously above your normal 3D universal range, as I just went over consistently. And his speed, he's far faster than light, possibly even greater than that. Decent amount of hacks in his own right, resistances that could be argued, plenty of experience, master martial artist, etc., etc. Move on to Hyperversal Kira. Let him talk about the Sailor Galaxia.
Now if we're going on for Sailor Galaxia. Okay, so now we're going to go on to attack potency. For attack and potency, she is at least multi-universal if you want to put it in that ballpark. Well, for this, she had the power that's far beyond any enemy that she has fought before, and has easily destroyed the Holy Grail, which is easily above the Super Sailor Moon. Now, and now this was also able to destroy a whole space-time continuum and a dimension. She also has some other feats like complex multiversal, but some of that stuff is kind of iffy, and also has some hyperversal stuff, which is also kind of, there are some speed feats that she has, being able to travel and cross a time and space. Now, now there are very consistent for hacks. She has some conceptual hacks. She has reality warping. She has some sealing, sleep manipulation, nullifying attacks, and just dream manipulation, death manipulation, mind control, which really won't work on Beerus. Mind hacks, another thing that won't work on Beerus. For intelligence, she does have some really good intelligence, but she can get outsmarted by some of the Sailor Moon characters like Sailor Mercury. And that's pretty much all. But for her weaknesses, she does have some weaknesses, which is by her own crystal will also betray her and kill her. So basically, that's a big time factor right there, that her crystal can also betray her and kill her off. So now we're going to go on to the other badass who will explain why they think who wins this fight.
All right, Instinct, you want to start us off?
Oh, I'm sure. About Beerus, right? Or y'all
just give your thoughts on who you think would win between the two.
Well, consistently they should. All right, so my thoughts on this. This is actually a really close fight. I'm not gonna lie. Beerus does have infinite to possibly inaccessible speed feats. Same goes for Galaxia, but you could argue immeasurable speed feats as well if you want. But then for the hacks, though, Beerus can resist some of her hacks, but for the conceptual stuff, well, I don't know. But I want to give it to Sailor Galaxia, and I also want to give it to Beerus. But to be honest, I don't really know who's going to win this one.
Yeah, it's really is a tough one, right? It could go either way, really. I mean, I could see that actually myself. So, who wants to go next? Simple Star, CDH, you.
I guess I'll go.
All right.
Like, basically, they're both like around the same tier, so Galaxia a little higher. With like speed, all this stuff. It's like, who's going to their existence or like conceptual manipulation first, you got like existence and you got the conceptual. So it's like which one is gonna hit first? I feel like since this is going to be a battle, and they do downplay some stuff and like I just like knows what they're gonna do at this point, They're probably gonna just over exaggerate one character's strength and downplay the other one. Woo-hoo! It's like I just feel like it's up to how they gonna do it and stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
Go.
Simple Star, you want to give your thoughts?
Like I'm gonna go with like Galaxia, cause like y'all talked about like similar tiers and all that, but like what I heard here is like all these like wacky hacks and like yeah he has like resistance to like some of them, but like conceptual shit like sleep but like death hacks like I don't know. I'm gonna go with Galaxia because of like the freaking crazy hacks and shit. That's just me.
Yeah. Unity, what about you, man?
Honestly, nothing to say about this fight. I can see it go either way. So I'm just gonna give my thoughts on what do I think the animation of the next step battle will have, and what do I see inside. I mean, if you don't see the sneak peek, it's basically Galaxia blow off the Earth that Beerus is in, aka there is no Earth, which I can see there is potential that it will be good because you don't have to focus on Earth this time around. I mean, last time there's even Thanos versus Darkseid and they somehow make it into Earth. I don't know why, but at least this time I can see it not sucking this time. They can just focus on being more creative instead of sticking on cliche stuff Earth. I mean, they go wild, and honestly, both characters are multiversal or even higher, I can see the fight being better.
Yeah. So overall, you looking forward to the fight at all, or what?
I guess I'll give my thoughts on this. So my thoughts on this, that this can go pretty much either way. I know that Sailor Galaxia has that conceptual stuff, but I think the key thing, there's two key things that can really put this in Beerus's favor, is having having Ultra Instinct, which give him instinctive reactions, which can play a really big part in this. And I don't think Sailor Galaxia has fought any opponent that has had this ability before. And then also another big part is, like I mentioned, her weakness. And if Beerus can recognize the crystal, he can. That is a form of way that he could take her out. But then it comes down to her hacks again with the conceptual stuff. So this can go either way. I really am hoping that Beerus wins this fight, but I'm looking to more put this on the favor of Sailor Galaxia just because of that conceptual stuff. But overall, it could go either way. It could go either way with Beerus's Ultra Instinct and then being able to exploit her weaknesses. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
All right, and I'll give my final thoughts. So basically, sure, I do actually see arguments being made for both of them, but overall, it really does depend on kind of like the speed. So let's just go with like finite, because I'm sure that's what Death Battle is probably going to just go with finite. So, Beerus, I don't know a lot of the like major finite speed stuff for Galaxia, but here's the thing: if she does end up being faster, then I would say her hacks are going to be far more useful, because like again, death hacks, conceptual stuff. That's it. A couple of those things are just like stuff that Beerus is not going to be able to fully deal with. And like, but if he ends up being faster, he has a chance of like figuring out her weakness. As a Hyperversal Kira pointed out a minute ago, you know, her weakness, the crystal, he could exploit that if he's a little faster. You know, he could pressure point this chick, you know, do a little chop sticky to her and just knock her out like that. There's just, yeah, you could argue against that as well. I'm sure she has godlike regen, freaking some type of immortality, etc., etc. But I'm just throwing out things. Sure, if Beerus is faster, there's arguments that you can try to make for him. But overall, if we're looking at it like, okay, if they're in the same tier, right? If I'm looking at it from this standpoint, if they're both fast enough to at least tag each other, and they're around the same tier of power where they can at least like hurt each other, etc., etc., then I would say Beerus has less stamina and she has better hacks, and that's going to be a big problem. She has better stamina and hacks if they're around the same tier. I would actually have to edge out with Sailor Galaxia as well overall. So, Infinite, any thoughts?
Okay. Nothing much. All I can say is 2D animation. It's going to be an extreme fight. Overall, I do agree with all of you guys said. GG.
All right. Well, hope y'all have a good one. Oh, and go subscribe to all of these badasses. You know, go subscribe to Instinct, Infinite, Unity, the Hyperversal Kira, Simple Star, all of them.
CDH.
Have a great one, folks. Peace.